Welcome back to the table for the Friday, March 27, 2026 installment of Market Plus. Joining us now, Don Roose. Don, I really cut your knees off right at the end of the television show. My apologies. I wanted to wedge in one more thing, and it was about biofuel policy. We have been hearing for days, weeks, that there was going to be a big announcement come Friday. And there was. Midday on the South Lawn, there was this long line of farmers I've seen on X that were there. He called it the biggest gathering of farmers ever in the White House. But what EPA was saying, that we're going to have the Set 2 rule for the RFS. It's the highest volumes in the 20-year history of the program. But the biodiesel number, they're claiming, is going to be up 60%. Do you buy into that this is policy that is attainable by the American farmer and the energy community?
Well, glad to be back, Paul. But I think when you look at it, yeah, what we're talking about is the overall going up 2 to 3 billion gallons each in the next 2 years as far as the overall program. But we left the ethanol at 15 billion gallons, so that's completely unchanged. The big one on that, then bean oil reacted very negative to it. It's been the big leader to the upside, is we allowed foreign feedstocks, in other words, foreign competition of oil, South America bean oil, others, to come into the U.S. at the same credits, RIN credits, 100% as we do here in the U.S. A lot of the trade thought is going to be 50%. So bottom line is it allows the foreigners to bring in more bean oil and other feedstocks than we thought was possible, and that's what the push to the downside was. As far as our overall RVO, it was pretty much what it was expanded, that's true, but it was what was already anticipated.
The headline ethanol doesn't really change. It was the change in other little side components of this, right?
It was the side component. It was the side components it was the feedstock is the one that you're really focusing on. As far as the expansion of the others, 2 to 3 billion gallons, in the next 27, 28, that was pretty much anticipated. That's why these biodiesel plants are being built. They're anticipating this.
Is this enough policy to stabilize things?
I think what it tells you is that the soybean oil, the big leader to the upside, is probably has already probably put in too much risk premium, and it's not going to take a lot to tip it over and get the funds to move to the sidelines. A lot of it's going to be dependent on what happens with the war, what's going to happen with the energy going forward.
We have always a big report in January, but we have one coming up on Tuesday that is planting intentions and also stocks. So Gary in Wisconsin is going to lead us off with questions, if we could, Don. Off X, the USDA was way off on acres last year in normal conditions. Can Tuesday's numbers be traded with confidence with so many variables this year?
Well, number one, it's a big market moving report. It's a big one. It's what we have to go forward as our base. I think the question, squarely, if we come up with 94 million acres, down 4.5 million from last year, typically we add back a couple million acres, so maybe that's where he thinks it's off. It hasn't historically been off a huge amount. We've added back acres, but it really starts to set the tone for this next year where we're going.
But can the variability really be factored in right now? Because so many times I've heard people in your chair say, decisions are made. They're not going to alter it because of one thing or the other. It is a long time to October. I'm just going to go ahead and plant corn. I'm just going to go ahead and plant beans. I'm just going to go ahead and plant cotton. Is that accurate this year?
Well, what usually happens, Paul, is, the producers are trying to juggle around, year-end tax things, and a lot of their decisions on planning are made before the end of the year, and I think those have been made. Usually what happens is it's the variability with the weather as much as anything else that changes how many acres are or aren't planted. The market may be a little bit, but not as big a factor.
Let's talk weather and the fires in the plains. Brian in Iowa has a question for you. Are the drought conditions in Texas and Oklahoma so dire that some acres are being zeroed out? A total wheat crop failure looks imminent in a vast swath of the plains. Given that the Dakotas have stopped planting wheat in a historic amount, this looks to be one of the fewest bushels harvested in recent memory. So, why is wheat not 2 times the price it is now given the dire conditions that are setting up?
Well, we're planting already corn in Texas. We're about 50%, 60% planted. So, you know, we haven't seen any acre switch there. But he is right. We're in a drought in Texas, Oklahoma, for the most part, minor drought in some of the other areas. But as far as the wheat, why isn't it moving up? Yeah, we've had a double top at 650 technically on wheat. We spiked up March 9th, couldn't get over it. That was on all the fears and everything we were running. And part of the reason is because there's just a lot of wheat in the world market. And the stocks are big in the U.S., and our March 1 stocks look like they're going to be pretty big. And let's just say we're at $7 in the Gulf wheat. You've got Ukraine cheaper. You've got Russia cheaper. Let's just say they're down around 650. You got Europe cheaper. So all those other countries are 30 to 50 cents cheaper.
Let's keep on the global if we could here. I want to go to Steve in Wisconsin. I'm skipping one there. Steve wants to know about El Nino, La Nina, the Iran war, dry conditions, and wildfires are feeding headlines. With prices creeping up on new crop corn and beans, what's the best way to protect a profit and not sell too soon?
Well, I think the number one thing, and this is a year where you have a chance because you can put some floor contracts in, and we're seeing people do it. You know, for example, you can buy March of 27 crop year for next year. You can buy $5 puts, you know, for somewheres around 35, 40 cents. I mean, that locks in a price that you can live with, and then you get all the upside. So they're floor contracts. There's just so many variable contracts that you can work with if you understand them that give you the chance to protect this where you can make money for most people and still give you a chance to rally to the upside. So you're in a window of risk management that you should be looking at.
I think you've said this before, and forgive me if I go way too far. I think you have said sometimes marketing's like baking a cake, and some of the ingredients are maybe not as variable. Right now, the cake seems to be baked on 26. We're only going to have a certain window. Are you saying there's a much more wider window still on 27 that we should take advantage of?
Well, I think 27, but you know what I was really alluding to when I said 27 March corn, I was because December of 26
okay,
is really
coming out of the 26
is 27.
Drought.
So
okay.
What I'm saying is if we get a drought, the December March corn spread will come way together. So you can beat that. At least you've got 10-cent carry going out to March, and then you can see what happens. It's a low risk way to look at risk management that's in your favor right now. It may not be before. I always say, if the window's open, you got to jump through it because it may close again, And in this year, it could close quickly. We know the funds are bloated right now. We know that we've got a lot of uncertainty out here in the world, and we've got risk premium in the market. And like I say, it's very similar to a weather market. You take the stairs up and the elevator down eventually.
Well, how much do you peak, though? Let's talk about December of 27. Do you peak at that right now?
I think if we have normal fertilizer that comes at us, if we have energy prices go back down, I think you do. I don't think it hurts to have some small percentage out there, Paul. We're seeing people put 5 and 10% for 27 just because they hope it's their worst sale. But you're doing something to help yourself at numbers that you can. They're not the best, but you can at least pay the bills.
Do something, not nothing.
That's a usually good program.
All right. Okay. Let's do Ronald in Iowa. I don't think I've asked this one yet. This one is interesting for a couple things because we talked about it briefly on the show. Could this Iranian conflict be bullish for corn from the standpoint of rising input costs, particularly urea for the Brazilian safrinha crop this year?
Well, most definitely. This year maybe not. They're much like we are. They side dress with ammonia. That's probably their biggest concern. Of course, that could be our biggest concern too, that the ammonia's not booked. But no doubt we've got inflation, fertilizer inflation in the market here also. This year, some. How much? Next year, could be more.
All right. Heaviest question of the program. Any surprises that Iowa beat Nebraska on Thursday night in basketball?
I don't think so from an Iowa person. And go Iowa State.
And that's the thing, we have our director as a Nebraska guy. So now Corn Again 2 is going to take place on Saturday between Iowa and Illinois. Isn't it crazy how everybody talks about corn and soybeans on these national broadcasts? Is that a good thing?
I think it's good PR because we know agriculture, and the rest of the world and the rest of the country should know agriculture.
Yeah, and they got to get this basketball done so we can all start focusing on planting, right?
I think, hey, by the way, we've started to have people planting in the Midwest on soybeans already.
It's going to be quite a year, or at least the next few days, right?
It's going to be a wild NCAA tournament, but it's also going to be wild markets on the weekends.
Yeah.
Like we said many times, much like weather markets, it's uncertain, and it's going to move fast.
And it's been that way for the last few weeks, so we should be used to it by now.
Well, volatility, I mean, I don't know if you ever get used to it, but, you know, it's something that you have to live with, and you have to trade around. And there's a lot of tools you can use, Paul, to make sure that you can take advantage of that.
Well, we appreciate you coming in and helping us out, as always, with insight. Thank you, Don Roose.
Thank you for asking me back.
Great to see you. That's Don Roose, everybody. Next week, we're going to talk about a grocery store that's helping keep a community from turning into a food desert. And Chris Robinson is going to be with us. Thank you so very much for joining us. Have a great week.